Hello, everyone. I'm Diana Palmer, for those of you who don't know me. I've been a member of the Central Okanagan chapter for many years, and I've also been the show coordinator for the chapter for the past 15 or so years. Can't even remember actually how long it's been that long. I also worked as a professional picture framer for 25 years. So I know a thing or two about artwork preparation and presentation and hanging. And I'd like to share some of that knowledge with you tonight in hopes that you will find it helpful when you go to prepare your artwork to submit to an FCA show. I'm also going to talk a little bit about substrates, in particular canvases and cradled wood panels, and some of the FCA rules that pertain to these substrates. So this is a recorded presentation, of course, but I will be available afterwards to answer any questions that you may have. So you may have noticed some of the call for entries coming out from our chapter and from Vancouver that attached will be a exhibitions guideline booklet. And in there are all the rules pertaining to the show. And I highly recommend that you read these because it's important to know these rules, because you could have a painting accepted into the show, get by the jurying and be qualified, but then it could be rejected at the door of the gallery if you haven't followed their rules, if you're not aware of their guidelines. And yeah, and that can be most disappointing. So I highly recommend that you read these guidelines, be aware of them. You can also find it on the Vancouver's website at artist.ca. Just go there and you'll find the guidelines there if you haven't been sent one recently. And read them often. Like, don't assume that you know the rules, because they are constantly updating, and never know what changes they're going to make. And so you need to be aware. So I'm going to talk now about canvases and the rules pertaining to canvases. So a new rule, it's fairly new, that some people aren't aware of, and actually I wasn't aware of until I was informed by Kit earlier this spring, that all unframed canvases now must be the 1.5 inches deep. They cannot be unframed if they're on the narrow canvases. If you paint on these, you have to frame them. And also with the deep ones, if you're going to leave it unframed, you have to finish the edge. You can't submit just a raw gessoed edge. This has to be finished. I mean, these gessoed edges, you know, they do get fingerprints, they get dirty, and so they really do need to be finished. So you can finish them in 2 ways, basically. You can paint the edge a complementary color to the painting. You don't have to just paint it black, and often in cases black isn't going to work, doesn't work as well. So just pick a nice, a dark complementary color that works well with the painting. Like in this case, this painting has a lot of like dark purple blues. So I used just a dark purplish blue on the sides, and I think it works well. I don't actually have any black in this painting. So I think if I put black on there, it wouldn't have really worked as well as this color does. The other option is, of course, just bring your image right around the edge. This is one of Marilyn Burry's paintings, and yeah, she's painted right around the edge. Now you don't have to do it on the bottom. You can just paint there. She's just painted a nice complementary color, and same with the top, right? But on the sides, where you do see the sides, it's good that the image is wrapped around. So yeah, so if you're not framing, definitely have to finish the edge. Even if you are going to frame, use a float frame, I think it's a good idea to finish the edge as well, because even in a float frame, you can sort of see from certain angles. It's probably hard to see with the camera, but you can sort of see the edges. And this painting, I have it hanging over a dresser in my bedroom. And when I look up from it, I'm lying in bed and I'm looking up, I can actually see this edge under here. And I just painted this a plain sort of whitish color. And I kind of wish I'd wrapped the image around, because I can really actually see that edge. So yeah, float frames, when you're using them, you should probably finish the edge too. I mean, if the float frame is right up close to the painting and there's not much of a gap there, you're not going to see the edge. But it's nice to have the option of moving the painting back and having a nice sizable gap here, and expose your edges a little bit. Okay, so the same rules apply with Cradle Panels. I actually don't have a sample of Cradle Panels. I just have the board, but basically it's the board with a wooden side, the cradle board on top. So with these ones, same thing, except you have a third option. You don't have to paint the edge. You can just leave it like a raw, the wood. But these cradle panels, usually you seal them using a GAC 100 or something. So the sides probably should be sealed as well, just to keep it from getting marks on it and stained. Okay, and then these, of course, we'll just need wire on the back, which we're going to talk about a bit later. Also, with these canvas boards and cradles, I'm just going to talk a little bit about framing. These are kind of nice because if you have a frame, such as this one, it doesn't have much space here. So if you try to put a canvas in there, it's going to stick out the back one ways. So these boards are kind of nice because they just pop into these shallow frames nicely. And if you're going to frame a canvas, then by all means use the narrower ones, because they do fit into a frame better, and there are more frame options for the narrower canvas than there are for the deep canvas. If you're framing a deep canvas, there seems to be fewer choices, and you pay more for the frame because the frame is deeper. So yeah, if you know for sure you're going to frame, the narrower canvas is probably a better choice. So I just want another way to frame these panels. If it's some kind of a panel board, whether it's acrylic or canvas board or the wooden panel, is to float frame them. Now this is just a little painting that I did on a canvas board. And if I just pop it into a frame like that, it doesn't really do much for it. But what you can do with these is float them. So you have space around, so the frame isn't crowding the painting. So I'm just going to just stick this over top. And it's just got some silly putty on the back, so it stays. So that looks a lot better than just sticking that on. So it's just something to keep in mind. It's just raised up. It just has a piece of a 1/4-inch foam core underneath. This backing is a mat board that I've just put clear acrylic gel on. You can use just another canvas board and paint it. Somehow it has to be sealed, or you can use a wooden panel and paint it, seal it for the backing. So that's just an option for framing these, especially the smaller panels. You know, if you're doing something quite small, most frames have at least a 1/4 inch lip on them. Sometimes it's 3/8 of an inch. So when you take that 1/4 inch off a painting all the way around, that's a 1/2 inch on the horizontal and the vertical that you're taking away from the painting. And when it's a small painting, I think that really interferes with the composition of the painting. So they do look nicer if you can float them. Just something to keep in mind. With these, when you're painting the edge of the canvas, try to get as sharp a line there as you can, because I've seen a lot of paintings where the artist hasn't really paid attention to this edge, and it's all kind of a frayed edge, and it really doesn't look very good. So even use painter's tape or something if you can to try and get as sharp a edge there as possible. I know with paintings that are quite textured, it's more difficult to do that. So in that case, it might be better just if you can just bring your image over the edge a little bit and have your line just back here a little ways so you can make it a sharper line. Okay, one other thing I forgot to mention that is very important is if you're not framing, don't use any of the canvases that are stapled in the side. You can see that, but there's staples all along the sides there. So that definitely isn't permitted. And even if you're using a float frame, you shouldn't use canvases that are stapled in the side. This is okay if it's going right into a frame. The frame's up tight against it. You don't see those staples, that's fine. But yeah, that's definitely one thing that will get your painting barred from a show. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about picture wire and the hardware used to hang a painting. There's basically 3 types of picture wire. There's braided steel and steel vinyl coated, which is most popular and what's recommended. And that's what I have here. They come in different weights. The vinyl coated wire comes in a number 4, which holds 25 pounds. Number 5 holds 43 pounds, and that's what I have here. And a number 6 will hold 60 pounds. I think that's the maximum weight the coated goes to. If you have something that's really heavy, you probably have to go to a stainless steel wire. And you can get a stainless steel wire that will hold up to 100 pounds. The only problem with that is it's less flexible. It's quite a stiff wire. I don't have a sample to show you because I don't use it. Yeah, so used to be before this coated wire came out that we just used the braided wire, but the braided wire is really bad for turning black. I don't know if you can see this, but this used to be a nice silver color. When I framed this, year in 2006, and now it's already starting to go black. And another thing with this braided wire is the ends are, they fray and they're really sharp. They're just like needles and they hurt like heck when you poke yourself with them. And it's braided wire. It's not steel. I think it might be aluminum or something. It's not as strong, so it is more likely to snap. Okay, so that's a little bit about the wire. And so now I'm actually going to do a demo and show you how to attach the wire to the back of the canvas. Okay, so once you pick the right weight of wire for your painting, and I must say that's quite important, getting the right weight. When in doubt, go to a heavier wire. It's always better to be safe than sorry, because I have seen several cases where the wire has not been strong enough and it has snapped, and yeah, results are usually pretty disastrous. So it's important to have the right weight of wire, but uh, your wire is only as strong as your hangers. Even if you have the proper weight of wire, if you don't have the proper hanger and it's not attached to your frame properly, it'll just pull out, and same result, disaster. So the best hangers to use are these D-rings. You can see it. What's there? Sometimes you can get them with 2 holes if you have a big heavy painting. Sometimes they're just a larger size than this. So the strength of these is not really as important as your screw that anchors them to your frame or your canvas. Like if you use too small a screw, it's just gonna pull right out, right? So usually for most paintings, a 1/2 inch to 5/8 inch screw, a single screw is enough. If you have something that's quite large, you might want to go to the double holed D-rings and use 2 5/8 screws. And if your frame's thick enough, you can use a longer screw if need be. Especially the paintings that sometimes people are doing a fiberglass coating on them now, those tend to be really heavy. So if you're doing anything like that, make sure you have a good strong D-ring and a good the right size screw and the heavy wire. So to attach the wire, first of all, it's a good idea always to have something soft here to put your picture or in your frame face down on. A lot of the frames nowadays, they're a soft wood. So if you put it down on a fairly hard surface and there's any kind of grit or anything on the surface of the table, it'll mark your frame up pretty easily. If you're moving it around and dragging it across the surface, if there's grit on there, it's going to scratch your frame up. So have a nice, soft, clean surface to work on. The placement of the wire is quite important. The general rule is 1/4 to 1/3 of the way down from the top. So this is 14 inches. This is a 14-inch painting. It's a horizontal. So the vertical is 14 inch. So with this, I will be placing the wire probably about 4 inches from the top would be good. So that is, just kind of in between a 1/3 and a 1/4 of the way down. If I was framing this, wiring this as a vertical, this is a vertical painting. So this is 18 inches high. I would probably still put the wire, I'd probably put the wire maybe around 5 inches there. So more, when it's a tall vertical, it's closer to 1/4 of the height. If it's a horizontal, it's more like 1/3 of the height. If you have the wire too low, it causes, when the painting's hung on the wall, it causes it to it just causes it to tip away at the top, tips downwards. If you have the wire too high, the canvas can interfere with the hook. The hook can actually, on the wall, can actually show above the frame. The wire could even show above. So yeah, don't get it too high. don't bring it down too low. I mean, in the old days of the salons, where they used to hang, almost floor to ceiling paintings, they did tend to put the wire lower so the painting would tip away at the top. So if you were down low looking up high, the painting was facing you. So that's it was kind of more traditional thing to put the wire low and have lots of slack in your wire so the painting would tip downwards towards the floor, towards the viewer. But nowadays we tend to hang artwork more at eye level or slightly higher, so we don't need the painting to be tipping. When I'm wiring a picture that I'm going to hang in my home, I have the wire as tight as possible because I like my painting nice and snug against the wall. But if it's something that's going in a show and you have a hanging committee hanging all these paintings, 100 paintings, it is more difficult to hang a painting that has a tight wire on the back. So it's a good idea to give the wire a little bit of slack, just to make the person hanging your painting a little the job a little easier, especially when they're going, sometimes they're hanging on grids or chains, and it's tricky hanging a show, believe me. So if there's a little bit of slack in the wire, it just makes it a little easier. Okay, so I'm going to measure down and better check, make sure I got the top. That's always very important. So I'm going to measure down about 4 inches, and I'm going to find, this isn't a very wide stretcher bar, it's kind of narrow, so I'm going to just make sure that's in the middle, and I'm going to just test my tab there on it just to make sure. Yeah, that's good. Tab's not going to stick out the side. It's well in, so you won't see it from the side. Measure 4 inches down on the other side, and just put a little dot in the middle there. So I've marked my where my wire's gonna go, and I need a screwdriver. So I'm going to just find the right screwdriver here. I think I have Robertson. So find the screw, the driver that fits it the best, getting on a nice snug fit. Yeah, there we go. So that's the right one. Okay, so I've got my screw on the end of the screwdriver. Now these frames, they're usually pretty soft canvas stretcher bars, so you don't usually need to pre-drill a hole. If this was a wood frame, like an oak frame, you would have to pre-drill the hole. You wouldn't be able to start the screw easily without it. And also with hardwood frames, if you don't pre-drill, it tends to split them. And if you've got a really hard frame, you can just take your screw and just screw it into a bar of soap. So you get some soap on the threads here. And then when you're turning your screw, and just turn in really slowly and with that soap on it in a pre-drilled hole, and it shouldn't split the wood. But I'm going to be lazy, and I'm just going to poke it in, because this is soft, and I don't want to go find the drill. So, so I've made a little hole there, and I'm going to put my tab on there, and just turn the screw in. One side. And let's poke the hole. Tabs are in. And just snug them up. Okay. Now the wire, you can just you just use wire cutters to cut it. So allow yourself, I don't know, let's say at least 4 or 5 inches of extra wire, and then allow you a bit of slack and enough to do the wrapping. Okay, so put the wire down through the D-ring on both sides, even it out, allow some slack, make the hanger's job easier, and then just wrap it down through there again, to the D-ring again. It's important that you go through this D-ring twice, because that's a weak point there. There's a lot of weight just pulling on that that point right there with the heavier picture frame. So it's important that you put it through the D-ring twice. And then what's left, just wrap it around the wire. Wrap it around itself. And keep your wraps fairly close together if you can. Wrap it right to the end. And then just take your thumb and your forefinger and just pull this, push it to the end, and then it bunches up on the wire. So you have a really nice, neat, tight wrap there. So same on the other side. Just do some wrapping. And this coated wire is the only wire you can do this little slidey trick with. There it is. So it's a bit loose. I'm just going to pull it back, tighten it all up. So yeah, you can't do that with the other wires. And keep in mind too, with a heavy painting, heavy picture, these wires will stretch a little. The wires, they have a little stretch, right? So don't leave too much slack, because you know they're gonna stretch. So you can see that's sliding a bit once the weight down. Just test it. Just test it out, pull on it till it snugs up, and then yeah. So this is got a lot of slack, but the picture, you put a picture hook there, it'll still be hidden. Yeah, it's a bit close to this flap. Maybe it could have been a little tighter, but it'll be easier for somebody to hang this painting, because they can get their hand in behind it and hook it over the picture hook. Okay, and that's pretty much it for putting a wire on. A metal frame, if you're using a metal frame, they come with hardware that just you loosen this screw, and it should just drop into the track. Maybe I should just see if I can take that out and show you. Switch. Some of the older ones, you had to slide this in from the bottom before you put the last piece on. But yeah, no, this is a newer kind. So it just slides in and out, just drops into the track like that. So you just drop it in, measure down your distance, and then you just tighten up your screw. And the rest is the same as far as the wire goes. With these are bumpers. With metal frames, they have really sharp corners, so it's more important to put bumpers on your metal frames if you can, especially the bottom corners that touch the wall. Wood frames, it's nice to have the bumpers on the bottom, because it lifts them off the wall. It helps grip, the rubber ones anyways help grip the wall so the painting doesn't shift so much, so easily, and it also gets a little bit more air behind there, so your wall paint doesn't discolor if you have air circulation. So so bumpers are good to add if you can. Now, if you send something down to the Federation Gallery that's improperly framed or improperly wired, or something without a wire, they'll put a wire on for you, a proper wire, but they'll charge you $20 a picture to do it. So it's best you just have it done properly in the first place. I just want to show you this. This is just an old frame, but this is an eye, I think we call it an eye screw, or an eyelet. So these used to be really popular, but don't use these. These are not good. They when you're screwing them in, they're kind of weak. So sometimes they just snap right off while you're turning them in. But other times they don't come completely off, but they have been weakened. So once the weight hits them, then they pull out. And they stick out from the side. You can see them from the sides. They scuff the wall. So they're just bad news. Yeah, and here, this is a thumbtack. So yeah, never do that. Have your proper hangers, proper wire, add bumpers if you can.